Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Rory Hughes is the principal and teaches acting and musical theatre at the Irish National Academy of the Arts. Originally from the USA, Rory grew up performing professionally since he was 10 years old. He performed in shows regionally before moving to New York City in 2001. He performed in Avery Fisher Hall at Lincoln Center, as well as with the charity event Broadway Bears. In 2010, he moved to Ireland and performed around the country and in the hit TV show Penny Dreadful. He has been teaching dance, drama, MT rep, audition tech, script analysis, and improv for the past 15 years in several schools in Dublin. He also taught at the International College of Musical Theatre. The Irish National Academy of the Arts is Ireland's full-time industry-led performing arts conservatory, built to train professional performers. The Academy isn't about collecting classes, it's about building careers. Up next on Celeb Savant, discussing his journey in the creative world and more about the Irish National Academy of the Arts, is Rory Hughes. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I am in Ireland, near Dublin.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this creative world, and how did that journey progress?
I started studying theater when I was young. I was put into classes when I was younger. I couldn't sit still, so put in dance classes as I got a little bit older, and got bitten by the bug once I auditioned and was in a professional production of Evita when I was 10.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What were the next steps?
The next steps, I started just training a lot more, being a part of like a performing arts program in Pittsburgh. When I got to high school, there was acting and singing and dancing that was also offered at the high school. So I took those classes, training in Pittsburgh. And then I went to Syracuse University for musical theater, got a BFA. And then I went to performed regionally, performed in New York, and lived in New York for about 9.5 years. Then I moved to Ireland in 2010 and I've been here since and met my husband over here. That's a little bit of a nutshell.
So what do you currently do in Ireland?
What I currently do is I teach drama, musical theater, acting, all that type of thing, dance. I also am beginning and starting to create the Irish National Academy of the Arts for our first inaugural class starting in September 2026. We are currently auditioning students as we speak, but I've been teaching probably about 18 years between dance and musical theater and performing here and there, between film productions over here in Ireland. When I first moved over, I was involved in pantos and all that stuff.
Do you still perform now, or is your main focus on the teaching side?
Main focus is more on the teaching. I've done some little bit of film here and there. Probably will go back and do some more film if I'm getting self-taped in or, being called to do some extra work because I've enjoyed it. But it's mainly teaching and basically getting the next generation ready. Unfortunately, in Ireland, a lot of the students that want a career have to leave the country to actually pursue it properly for proper training. So that's why I'm developing the Irish National Academy so that they can get proper training at home, don't have to go to the UK, and I bring London to Dublin, and I bridge that gap between Ireland and London and performing arts and worldwide, yeah.
So what challenges have you faced to create this bridging of the gap to teach the locals there?
I think it's because it's the first year, getting students and parents to, take it seriously. Schools within Ireland to look at us as it'll be a serious training program for, students that they have taught. We have a secondary school program for transition years. They have something called over here where they can take 1 year. On year 4, they can take a year and do whatever they want to do. And basically they can come to us for a year when they're like 15, 16 years old and train hardcore for a year. And then also determine if they want to do that for the rest of their career. Then we will have a 3-year musical theater diploma. Because I'm doing it by myself, I have people involved, I have teachers, I have all that. But trying to get the students and the parents to know who we are, get them in the door, get them to audition. And I think that the tough part is also making sure we have the standard there so that we can build off that standard year by year as well. It can be tough to try and build that from the get-go. We need it here. We have to have it here. An example is Jessie Buckley just won the Oscar, had to leave the country to make a career. So
Yeah.
why can't there be a career and small industry within Ireland?
What misconception have you noticed? A couple of the misconceptions that students you train and teach have about the industry.
Especially right now, I think one of the misconceptions is, I think with social media today, maybe students think you can train fast and easy. I think some misconceptions are that, as soon as they graduate, they're going to make it big and, that kind of thing. Misconceptions of what the industry actually is and how tough the industry is. So we have to make sure that we teach them that it's a tough industry. It's getting tougher. It's tougher than when I was in the industry, when I first left college. Ensure that they're, the business side, the self-employment of yourself is also talked about and taught more in programs, because you're kind of a solopreneur of your own career, and you have to market yourself, you have to audition, you have to get up and audition, you got to really work on. And with social media is a great thing. It can also be a bad thing. There's a catch-22 with social media today as well.
Why do you say that?
I think it's the bad aspect is comparing yourself to other people, big one. And that's a big thing in general. Be very careful what you put up online. Like, because people look at your social media, from casting agents and all that kind of stuff. They look at your stuff. You want to show your personality, but want to make sure that it's representing who you are as a person, as a human side, but also your professional side. You have to be cautious of that, conscious of that. So there is that side of it as well. And as I said, having it in your face all the time, people being able to comment on your stuff from dark rooms around the world that don't know what the industry is, or that kind of thing. Negativity happens towards the people that are in the industry, that are the stars too, that don't know about the industry or don't know the background of people. That's one side of it that can be the negative. The positive is also showing who you are, showing your talent, showing your training as well. So that's why the catch-22.
You referenced earlier that the industry has gotten tougher. Why do you say that?
Yes. I think there's more people wanting to do and enter into the industry. A lot more students that are training to be dancer, singer, actors in today's world. I think because social media also enhances the lore of wanting to be a performer, I think, as well. But, the training has to be behind you. You have to have that training. And your training never stops either. Like, let's be honest. You're always in training, you're always learning, you're always working with a coach if you need to. And after you've graduated and had all the training, you're still going to have coaches, and you're still going to have directors that are going to be like a coach too, and directing you and helping you become the best actor and singer performer that you are. But, you always have to keep learning. But that's one of the biggest things about the industry, is that there's a lot more interest, I think, in it, and a lot more students graduating than ever before. So that's why it's very competitive, more now than ever, I think.
Do you think because people have become more open-minded? So, for example, back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, become a doctor, become an accountant, become a lawyer, because then you'll make money. And then people just did what they instructed. And a lot of those people are now in those careers, hating their lives, not following their passions. And now these days, especially kids, they've got more of a voice, and they stand up and say, no, this is what I want to do. And they are more following their path. Do you think that's also part of it?
That's part of it. I think it's also that our arts in general, and theater and arts, any type of art, is also very important for society to function and to progress as a society and world without it. I think it would be a very boring place. And I think it's, like you said, more and more people are getting their voice to say, no, I want to pursue this, not that. But also, it's arts and theater also helps people that are in other careers pursue this as a career. It also helps them in other aspects of their careers. If they are lawyers, they're doctors, they're the big money ones, that kind of thing.
What do you love about theatre?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one because there's so many things I love about theater. Because there's so many things about theater that is so special. Like it's part of our culture for thousands of years now in theater, and there's a reason. It's community, another big one. Community is also a huge one. Not even just going to see it, but also if you're involved behind on stage or behind the stage, building relationships and being part of that community is really, really important. And I think that's also keeps you going as a performer or an artist. I think it's the thrill. I mean, for when I was on stage, the thrill of being on stage and giving yourself and everything you have to an audience and having them enjoy it, or giving them laughter, giving them sadness, giving them something to think about. That's also exciting.
Now, you referenced giving the audience and that exchange. These days, a lot of people have attention spans of 10, 15 seconds, and they can't be without their cell phones. And oftentimes, as I cover theatre productions here, I'm in the theatre and then someone will be on their phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, put your phone away. I just get so frustrated. A colleague of mine said that his relative was in a theatre production in the US, and in the middle of the show, this woman FaceTimes phone calls her family member, and everyone was telling her to shush and keep quiet, and she was carrying on talking on the phone. For anyone who's wants to go to theatre, but they struggling with that concept of will they be able to sit still, concentrate, and focus for that period of time, what advice would you say to them?
Let the journey of the story take you and let it take you and your mind and spirit and take that along with that journey. It's really, you got to shut off from social media. You got to shut off from your phone. If we're that addicted that we can't be without our phone in our hands for 2 to 3 hours, where are we gone as a world and society? I think that's really important that we teach younger students and have them go to theaters to start learning how to sit there and watch through productions and at an early age so that they build that type of commitment and stamina, if you will. That 15 seconds, 20 seconds, even just a minute of watching something. We've all gone, we all get addicted to it. We all scroll here and there, but at the end of the day, we need to teach them to really be able to sit in a theater and be able to watch something. Same for a movie. The same movie is 2 to 3 hours. We need to have, no one should be on their phone in a movie theater. You want to be able to be taken on a journey within what the story is trying to give. You want to be able to do that.
You referenced that the school is going to be a musical theatre 3-year diploma. You touched on some of the topics earlier, but what are the main high-level subjects that a person who would like to do this diploma learn and study in?
For them to audition, they definitely need to be able to have some sort of background in acting, singing, and dancing. If they're not a dancer, they need to know how to hold their posture and be able to move somewhat. So that if they're in their 3-year course and they're a singer-actor, they need to be able to learn dance for the industry when they graduate and be able to get through a dance call. If they're a dancer and they're less of a singer-actor, they need to work on their acting and singing for the 3 years, still working on their dance, but then make sure that the levels are all the same when they graduate in 3 years. And that's so important that they'll be given different styles of dance. They're going to be working on acting. They're going to be working on voice once a week. They're going to be having music theory in their first year so they know how to look and read some music if it's given to them. Some could be pianists and musicians before they enter us, but we want to make sure that they understand how to read music because that's such a part of the industry. You need to be able to work out what your notes are on your own if you need to, play out your notes and listen to the recording, but play it on the piano. That's really, really important. So it's really developing a triple threat by the time they leave in 3 years, essentially. Yeah. Oh, they also take musical theater history to learn the history.
Oh, okay. And also the business side, so
Yes,
they can
they yeah.
know all those things.
So in their second year, they're going to start learning about touring. We're going to be developing a small children's tour that they'll work on in the curriculum of their Trinity College London diploma. But then it also engages Ireland and the next generation. It gives education around Ireland, but that also develops their skills as performers and as in a tour, a small, very small, minute tour. And then their final year, they will take a business class, like you said, that's going to be part of it. We're going to be developing that so that when they are ready to enter the industry, they know everything that about the business before they enter it. It's also trying to get them to understand what has to happen when they do graduate in the business side of everything, so they don't get to London or wherever they're ending up and going, I don't know how to do this, right? And that's still some cases where students can go to the bigger cities and they still are like shell shocked of what the industry is, or shell shocked how to get things started. We want to also make sure that they develop the network and connections already when they're in school. So when they get out of school, they already know who people are. People know who they might know who they are. So they're developing that type of relationship as well. The business side is definitely a huge importance.
A lot of theatre people, they perform 8, 9 times a week when they're doing a show for 6 months to a year. Are you also going to teach them how to maintain energy balance lifestyle during that? Or is that something you feel they need to figure out on their own as they dive into it?
We'll give them the basics on how to be able to do that. We'll have, we'll bring over West End stars that are doing master classes. We will have them teach them. Everyone has to develop it for themselves when they are in this situation. They have to learn how to do it on their own, because also everyone has a different capacity of what needs to be done before a show. What do they need to do after the show, before they go to bed? There's a lot of things that performers that have to figure out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And really, until you're in it, you really start figuring that out. But they'll have the basic skills to understand what works for me, what doesn't work for me. For example, I'm a person that needs to go probably straight to bed right after, not go party. I'm not one of those that can do that. Those are the types of things that really will help give them the basics so that when they're an 8 show a week, they'll understand what they need to do and then develop it to what they actually have to do for their own mindset, their own physicality, their own vocal health, their own physical health, every type of physical, mental, everything kind of health. You kind of have to learn that on the job in some respects too.
For anyone who's thinking about pursuing this path, they haven't really dived in, they maybe have touched their toes into the water, what advice would you give them?
They have to really want this as a career. They can't think of anything else that they want to do. That's one of the biggest things. Like, they're so passionate about performing and they can't think of anything else that they want to do, that they need to do this. That's the type of performer that needs to go into the industry. It's not just a fast race, it's a marathon. So you have to know that you have to get, once you graduate, you have the skill set, but you got to keep working on it and taking classes. And let's say they go to London, taking classes in London and keeping fresh, but they still have to audition. Every audition is going to be probably 100 no's to the first yes. They might not make a West End debut or eventually, or someone going to Broadway. That could take us several years, because it's also building that network connections, and it's really about finessing those connections, finessing those networks. And it's also the right time and the right place as well. And it really is important to know that, you might be in the industry for 5 years. There's no West End debut. They're still working, doing a tour around Ireland and UK, or you're doing a tour around the UK, you're doing pantos, there's other options to build a career besides just being on the West End. You got an amazing cruise ship deal. Like, you're on a cruise ship performing for 6 months to a year. That's an amazing contract. Royal Caribbean do musicals on the board. So it's also a great way to learn, because you're learning how to maintain yourself in an environment that is also, you don't have the huge expenses of living expenses either. That's another big thing. But it could be 10 years and then you finally get your West End debut, I have friends who were auditioning with me, and it was until 10 years later that they got their first official Broadway debut, but they were in the industry working for 10 years in New York and outside New York recently, so it can happen in the West End as well. Like, you don't know, but you have to have that motivation and passion to keep you going through. I think another good thing is having the right people around you. Friendships will also help by supporting each other. People that you graduate college with, and that's a huge network of having a support network and friendships, helping each other support yourself with the motivation, supporting yourselves with the mindsets going into it, and uplifting each other when we're down. That's really important too.
So, Rory, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message to the audience, what would you like to say?
I want to just say thank you for having me, number one. I would love to say that if there's anybody that wants to move to Ireland, around the world, and audition for the Irish National Academy of the Arts, we are irishnationalacademy.com, irishnationalacademy@gmail.com. If you're not able to come to Ireland, of course, you can send in a self-tape. We have self-tape guidelines, so email us straight away. Self-tape, guys, make sure that you're filming it the correct way, landscape, and that you're filming, the camera is in front of your face, waist upward, that you're not looking down at the camera, because we don't want to look up your nose. That's happening a lot. We want to accept anyone who wants to passion and training. Of course, in Ireland, we want people in Ireland to train and not have to leave the country to go to the UK. We want them to stay home and be able to train here. That's the biggest thing.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.